Greetings, and welcome to the Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. We hope that you enjoy what you're about to see, and you can find us on the corner of Broadway and Church Streets at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Or you can find us at bgmethodist.org and on Facebook at Bowling Green First United Methodist Church.
I'm going to start things off a little bit differently this morning. I'm going to play something, and then as you're listening to that, I want you to be thinking about what is this saying to you as you hear this play. So I'm going to let it play. You'll figure out what it is really very quickly, I'm sure. There we go. When you hear that, what is it that you think of when you hear Amazing Grace played that way?
Fallen soldiers.
Fallen soldiers, yep. Fire department.
What they use on their.
Yep. It's we're talking to Viola this morning, so when I hear that, first thing that comes to mind is like New York City going down the streets, and you hear just this marching band of bagpipes that is going up, and the sound echoing off of the buildings. There is something about this particular song that sticks with us, whether you're Christian or not. It's the song that we use that reaches out to us to help us through those hard times. Now, the bagpipes that were used that we hear so often with that are kind of a new addition to that hymn. Since only about the end, or since the end of the Vietnam War, have we seen it being used that way. But it joins a long tradition of the way that this hymn has been used to reach out to people in lots of different places. Because this hymn was first written back in the day by this guy, that's John Newton. And he wrote this hymn back in about 1772. It was first published in a hymnal in 1779. There was no music with it when he first wrote it. It was just the words, and they would recite the words in worship services. Now, John Newton was kind of a character, we'll call him. He was, the early part of his life, he was a sailor, and all of the stereotypes that go with being a sailor worked for him. In fact, I have to look down and have to, and he was admonished on more than one occasion for not only using the worst words the captain had ever heard, but creating exceed the limits of verbal debauchery. Like I said, he was kind of a character. He was the one who would later go on to write the words to this hymn that's one of the greatest hymns of the last 300 years. That's who it was. There were some things that had to change in the intervening time, though, between that, and it did. It started. His conversion to Christianity took some time. It was not an easy or a smooth process, but there was a defining moment, though, that stuck with him. One of the times he was on ship, and they were in the middle of this huge storm, and they had already watched one of their crewmates get washed overboard in this storm, and so he and another guy tied themselves to the pump on the boat to keep themselves from being blown off. And he said at that moment, he said, if this will not do, then Lord have mercy upon us. Now, you know what most folks do. They get into those times. You know those times where you're looking at it going, you start making that bargain with God, saying, God, if you just get me through this, then I will do exactly what you want me to from here on out, right? And then, you know, the first thing that happens when the hard time is over, you know, how fast can people backpedal after that? They try to get back and out of that. Not Newton. Those words stuck with him. What he said in that moment stuck with him, and that began to change him first with his language, which admittedly probably took a little bit of work, but they began to change him, and he began to become different after that. He would go on for a while being a sailor on a ship, and on a number of different kinds of ships, including slave ships, because that was a part of, you know, he held very similar views to most everybody else in his time. But eventually the time would come where he was tired of being on a ship, and at one point he even collapsed while on deck, and he said, you know what, I'm done. He went home, he was missing his wife, he went home, he stayed at home, and he began this process of doing something new, and even managed to begin this kind of intensive study of teaching himself Greek, Hebrew, and theology. I'm not quite sure what kind of dedication it takes to teach yourself Greek, Hebrew, and theology, but I'm pretty sure I don't have that kind of dedication to do that. Yeah, that's a critical, but he did. That's what he did. In fact, he started working that way, and folks said, you should become a priest, and he tried on a couple of different occasions to become a priest. The first time he was turned down, and one of the reasons given for that was because he associated with Methodists. And we were a little bit too charismatic, apparently, for the Anglican Church of the time, which is actually one of Wesley's biggest complaints against them. But also, Wesley was one of those folks that looked at Newton in England and said, you need to keep going, you need to become a priest. And eventually, with some more help and some more support, he was ordained a priest of the Church of England, and he was assigned to the only curate as their pastor. Now, he was not the normal kind of pastor. Most of the folks at that time, they were a little bit more very traditional, very much formal, very much hard to approach. You can imagine a former sailor who had issues with his use of language and other things, I'm sure, not being a normal kind of pastor. He got out and he got to know folks. His sermons weren't as refined as others, but they reached people. He apparently was a pretty decent pastor. And it was during that time that he wrote the words to this hymn, because one of the things that pastors thought they had to do at that time was write hymns. And so he wrote this hymn. He saw as his mission as a pastor to do this, to break a hard heart and to heal a broken one. That was his philosophy. That's what he thought his job was. To reach out and to heal those that need to be healed, and to kind of work on breaking down the hard hearts of those that really just need to have that happen. And so that was the work he did. As time would go on, he would leave that parish, and he would go on to other things. And as he would go, he became an abolitionist, and he joined the anti-slavery movement, such that he was one of the leaders that helped to abolish slavery in England in 1807. That was how far he had come from his times as a sailor on slave ships. He never did forget, although he didn't associate Amazing Grace with the abolitionists, he never forgot the meaning behind those words, and he worked to try and live those out. And we saw throughout history how those words were used in so many different ways. One of those places was, actually several of those places were here in the U.S. Before I get too much farther ahead of myself, he used as his inspiration for, let me backtrack here for a second. He uses his inspiration for that hymn, our passage out of 1 Chronicles 17. This is the story of when King David went to the prophet Nathan and said, Nathan, I want to build God's temple. Here I am living in a palace and God is living in this tent down in the courtyard. He said, I want to build God a temple. And Nathan says, well, go and do whatever's in your heart, David. Nathan should have known better. He should have checked with God first. Because God comes to Nathan in a dream later that night and says, Nathan, you got to go tell him no. That it's not going to be his job to build the temple. But God says you can give him this though instead. Tell him it's not going to be his job to build the temple, but that it will be someone from his line who will sit on the throne forever. That is how that's going. You can give him that promise in the midst of this. And this is why we see David respond in the way that he does. Because for all the trouble and all of the issues that David had as king, and he was not a man without some issues, he had moments of great self-awareness and had moments of great humility so that he could hear God's voice. And he responds back, he says, who am I, Lord God, and of what significance is my family that you have brought me this far? This would be the same thing on a different scale maybe that Newton would express. He would say, Lord, you know where I have been. You know what kind of person I was before all this, and yet still, here I am now, and here are the great things that you have done, and you have encouraged me to do, and here's where you have brought me to. That's why he writes these words of God's amazing grace. And we see the power of those words as they go back even to the Second Great Awakening in the U.S. that kind of moved down to the South and into the Midwest, starting at about 1790, hitting its peak at about 1850. This was the movement that really helped folks to, where the emphasis was on accepting God's grace and not backsliding and resisting temptation, and that you do all this because of the grace that God gives you. But it didn't stop there either, because it also made its way into the abolitionist movement, into the anti-slavery movement, and into the fields and the plantations where the slaves were, that this became one of those songs that they used to help give them hope as they were coming out of this. Even Harriet Beecher Stowe in Uncle Tom's Cabin puts this hymn in there as a part of who they were, only she added a piece of that Newton didn't write. She added this verse. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we'd first begun. This became, for many, the song, the hymn that would define our hardest struggles. And in fact, when you look at our hymnals, you see at the bottom of that, the first verse is translated into Cherokee, Navajo, Kiowa, Creek, and Choctaw. Because as those tribes were being moved off of their lands, forcibly removed off of them and moved into reservations, this became a song for them also. Now I know it's became a song that defines who we are. Now I know probably the question is, well, why are you preaching on this on Mother's Day? I know that a lot of times, as mothers or even fathers or grandparents or aunts and uncles, extended family friends, if you've ever worked with kids at all, and you've ever had kind of an important part of a kid's life, you know that they can be kind of a challenge at times. You know that they can be kind of a struggle at times. Walter said, he's going, yeah, I've had many of those students in my office at one time or another. You know what they can do. And even at those times when they mean their best, they're trying so very hard, but you know that only trouble can come from this, because sometimes it just feels kind of like this.
Brad, we're taking a picture now. Now, the one for Mom. Hello? Now. I'm right here. Okay, sweet. Right, so I set it up. Okay. She's on night. This is fun. It's for Mother's Day. Whatever. Come on.
All right. Okay, are you in close enough? Okay, we're taking it again. Try to smile this time, okay?
I smiled last time.
No, well, I just looked at it. It looked like a freaking gopher or something. Okay, ready? Here comes. What? I said it for 10 seconds. I wanted to make sure you were smiling. So.
Come out of the bathroom! Put down the yardstick! Taking the picture myself! Please come out of the bathroom. One smile. If I smile for you this time, you don't bug me the rest of the day.
Oh, as if I want to?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Hey, hold up. What? Don't go in the bathroom!
I make no claims about whether or not this was autobiographical in nature. My little brother and I never did this more than 10 or 12 times. So, but you know what this is like, even when they mean their best, sometimes they can kind of mess it up or be a little bit of a challenge. But you also know what they do to worry, and you've got concerns, and how many times have they kept you up at night because you're worried about what's going on or what they're going to do or what's happening next, or are they going to get into the right school or get the right job, or the right thing is going to happen? The kids can kind of do that, right? They can cause us heartache and hurt and anxiety, and even when we're celebrating and we're joyful about the things that they have done, it's still, they're your kids. Sometimes what we need is just to be able to step back a little bit and say, and take a breath and say, that preacher up there made it, and he had a lot of important women in his life and parents and men in his life that helped him to get there. If he can do it, any of the rest of y'all can. This is, to remember that God can do that. If he worked through David, if he worked through John Newton, if he worked through any of the rest of us, God's amazing grace can pull us through. I think that's why this hymn speaks to so many, whether they're in church or not in church, because the power of the words and the music itself draws us in and gives us the strength we need to know that, okay, yeah, things are going to get hard now, and I might still have a few more sleepless nights. But in those times, let the words of this hymn, let the meaning behind it, let God's grace and power help to pull us through and know that he is always there no matter where we find ourselves or where our kids find themselves or whatever it is that's going on, know that he goes with us. And then in turn, that's what we can share with the world around us to help them know and to find that strength and foundation and that sureness that only comes from him. Let us go and do this in our joys and our celebrations on this Mother's Day. So let us go and do this through all the days of our life. And let's do this with Christ's help.